Darante LaMar in the house.
Oh yeah, Darante LaMar.
I said, this is the church and here is the steeple.
Open the doors and free all the people.
Yes. And we walk outside like, holy shit, look at that mushroom. It looks like an uncircumcised dick.
It was right there. It was awkwardly there. It was erect when we left and flaccid when we got back.
But I mean, they're sexy readers, so I can't complain.
Yes.
They are indeed.
Can you be quiet over there? Maybe?
I'm just trying to make a grilled cheese, Mom.
Oh, grilled cheese sounds so good.
Fuck it, Darante. I knew you'd be the one to make me cry on this channel.
I'm sorry.
Welcome to the Apostate Sisters Interview Series, where we look at the journey of people who have walked away from their faith and are living beyond it. Today we're speaking with someone who has not only deconstructed their own faith, but they are active in the atheist community. We found the channel of today's guest almost as soon as we started ours. We knew right away, based on his progressive, people-centric thinking, that we wanted to be friends. So let's welcome Darante LaMar. Hi, Darante.
Yay!
Hello.
Hi, Darante.
We are so pleased to have you here. And it's true. I think we found you like literally the week that we started our channel.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Like as soon as you said it, I was like, oh man, that's amazing. Because I think the first live we did on our channel, or at least one of the first lives y'all were on, at least two of the first lives y'all were on. We did
That was on a Sunday session, yeah.
Yes.
Easter. It was the Easter episode.
Easter.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. That is so cool.
I couldn't attend that one. I was drunk in Jamaica, but I was there
Ooh,
listening in the
That's
pub.
a great. Well, speaking of that, then, because next year Easter falls on 4/20, and so we are definitely having one hell of a conversation on that day.
So we would love to not only hear your story and your journey out of faith, but also I just kind of want all of our listeners to know what you're about over on your channel and like the entire community universe that you seem to be creating over there. So that's what I'd love to cover.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It really is. I love watching your content, Darante. And like I get really excited, especially when you and Kyle Butler are on. I love listening to the two of you. I could take a notebook and just jot down everything you guys are saying, and it would be a booklet of like inspirational quotes.
I abandoned me for life and a path that I never wanted.
You're undermining your own value.
Mm-hmm.
You think you have to attach this God idea to this thought you had about me in order for me to value that idea. When what you don't realize, and you should, especially if you know that I'm no longer a believer, then I'm going to value you more than I value this idea of your God.
I was sacrificing life for the Lord, thinking that this Lord will reward me because of my faithfulness to it, only to wake up one day and realize that reward ain't ever coming. It ain't ever coming, So you can either hold on till you get to heaven, or you could just get out here and make your own reward.
And Darante, it was such an honor to meet you in person recently as well. Yes. When me and Mr. Difficult Joel of TikTok and YouTube got a chance to see you at your home and meet you and Darnea and your children, and we got to roam around where you live there in Alabama. It was incredible. No, I think it's just so important that we have this online community, this great online community of atheists and skeptics, but there really is something about meeting someone in person. It just,
So I spent maybe about 2+ decades in ministry. Much of that as a pastor. I got saved very young and immediately kind of dove deep into ministry. And so once I actually deconverted, fully deconstructed, it was definitely a moment like, what do I do with my life now? And I did kind of restructure my life and find a new career identity in the corporate space. And as fun as it is, I do get to make a lot of impact, and I have kind of climbed the ladder a little bit. It still just wasn't the same as far as what I had actually committed to do as a child. And that was to help people, And so a major part of my journey even after deconversion, was trying to figure out, how do I still help people, and how much of my existence in religion was the superstition and how much of it was me. And that's what I spent that decade after deconverting really working on. Like, how much of this is me and how much of this is bullshit? How much of me do I have to give away to leave this? Or can I go back and look and say, no, there was actually more of me involved here than anything else, you know? And so I literally spent the past decade just kind of reshaping what pastoring would mean to me, or continuing doing the same things that I was doing when I was pastoring now as an atheist. And what would be the utility of that? Why would I do such a thing? Would it just be to do it because I need to feel like I'm still doing the thing that I committed to doing? Or is there some deeper need here? And for me, there was. And that was the very reason that I decided to be a pastor in the first place. And that is that community is a powerful engine of social change. Community is a powerful motivation factor for personal change. Things happen easier when we're working together to make those things happen, whether we're doing cooperative economics or collective action. Either way, having people collaborating together is the thing. And then I started trying to figure out, like, what is it that makes church so attractive? Because it's not the bullshit. None of us is going to church because hell was so attractive or heaven was so attractive. I mean, when you think about it objectively, heaven sounds like one of the worst places in the world. The only way it could be fun is if you're threatened with hell as the other choice, as the only other option, you know. And so what is it about church that makes it so attractive? And it's just that it's a community center. It's a community center where people are coming together, working together, and taking some type of agency over their own destiny. The biggest issue, though, is the superstitious bullshit that gets baked into it, making these places become hierarchical or dogmatic. All the things that I thought that I was doing that was actually helping was not actually helping, because I wasn't actually judging them by realistic standards. It was just like, if people committed to go to Never Never Land, then we won. Didn't matter if they were still poor, didn't matter if they were still struggling, didn't matter if their marriages were still breaking apart. As long as they agreed to go to Never Never Land at the end of this journey, then we won. And it's just like, oh man, that's such a huge detachment from reality. And so it helped me to realize that, man, the only thing wrong with church was the superstitious doctrine. Everything else about church was just people. Even the way the churches have evolved over the years, which I constantly call out on my channel, churches have been victims of secularization for 2,000 years. They've been secularizing since the moment they got here, because secularization is a response to survival. It's the only way that you can survive. You have to remain relevant, even if it's the least bit way possible. But that's why mainstream churches in America no longer have a connection to doctrinal identity. Most of them are fluff shops, whereas majority just motivational speaking with a little bit of Jesus baked in every now and then, just to make you feel like you're still at church. But other than that, you're at an indie pop rock concert and having the time of your fucking life, you know, and you just kind of have to substitute and be okay with Jesus. But while you're doing that, you also know you're getting free childcare. You also know that you're getting a free recreational center where you can come play ball at or do other things. You also know that you have a place to network with other people in your community at least 2 or 3 times a week to make very real, tangible things happen, whether they be for your personal development, your community development, or even professional development. There are so many businesses that come out of church structures because of these basic things. But then not even only that, you take it a step further with the musicians and the singers who are in church, who otherwise outside of those opportunities would have no place to be their authentic selves and do the thing that they really want to do, which is not necessarily making music that glorifies this imaginary useless hamburger man, but to actually make music that makes people feel better about their life and helps them go through. And so my big idea was, we don't have to stop doing that. All we have to do is get rid of the bullshit. And so that's pretty much what our goal has been on our channel, is to promote community without superstition.
How are you still blowing my fucking mind? I don't understand this. The drive for community is like almost an anathema to what we were taught, which is truth. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not an anathema at all. It's just that we were taught, like, indoctrinate yourself into these ideas that are
Yes.
absolutely bullshit and believe them as truth. And that's what everything is about. And oddly, you said that your interest in community at the beginning brought you
Mm-hmm.
back to what you're doing now. And
Yes.
and I feel like for me, the admonition to seek truth and only truth
Oh, yeah.
early on was exactly how I got the fuck out of there, because I did, but real truth,
That's
not
so
the
good.
indoctrinated truth.
Yes.
But yeah, it's like that seeking of truth that we did meant we ignored and did not engage or worry about or concern ourselves with all those beautiful things that you just listed out that are actually critical to humans being humans
Yes.
together on the
Yes.
planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh, that's
so
exciting.
thanks for fucking doing what you're doing. So
Oh,
how are you
man.
doing it?
No,
With
you
very little sleep.
I'm sure with all the projects you have going on, Durante, like I try to keep up with you and go into your comments, and I try to bait some of your trolls sometimes because holy
Yes.
shit, you get some trolls. I try to have fun with it, but I can't even keep up with the amount of materials that you put out, and so I'm very happy to see your channel grow so much, so
Thank
fast, and
you.
all these people that you're reaching out to, because you're not only an advocate in the atheist community, but you represent the Black atheist community, and we
Absolutely.
need more of you. How does that
For
feel
sure.
to be sort of at the forefront of that?
That's kind of always who I've been, right?
Mhm.
And that's a part of my personal charisma and just also a part of my personal story. So it wasn't that I didn't expect it, but I definitely didn't expect it this quick, But and I think and I don't know if that speaks to how great I am or if it speaks to how few there are, you know.
Mm,
And so that people are so excited that there are more. And so and my biggest hope, which goes right along with that kind of community aspect, is because I do have a very evangelical approach to this. So my hope is that other people see me on fire and feel that comfort to do the same and just be like,
yeah.
holy shit, I'm gonna do what the fuck he's doing. And then, like that's really what I want. I want other people to get out there and get excited and say, hey, I want to do this. This is normal. Like one of the comments I got today, it was someone saying, as a Black atheist, it feels so good to actually see other people talking about these things. And for the first time in my life, I feel okay calling myself an atheist, which is one of the reasons even though, like, honestly, humanist describes me much better. But I've been very, very, very adamant about using the A word so that other people can feel comfortable doing the same.
Yes. We need to normalize it because there's all kinds
Yes.
as people do with definitions. You hear the term atheist, a lot of people just automatically think, Satanists or something
Yes.
completely evil, like children people that eat babies. I don't know what they say. It's kind of like when we were raised in the cult, Durante, we knew the term pagan was bad. It
Yep.
was a way
Yep.
to separate all those people to say pagan, 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 but we don't know what the fuck it means. It just
Yes.
means not a Christian. Literally. Kyle Butler.
Yes.
My gosh, the two of you together is just incredible because you guys are now taking live phone calls from people. And I love that it's not really like the Atheist Experience or The Line, which I love those two shows
For
as
sure.
well.
Yes.
But you take the question and then you you put them on hold and then you answer the question and then you get back to them, be like, okay, did you have anything else? I've had my chance to speak to you. I love what you do there.
Thank you. Thank you. We definitely wanted a different type of experience with our call-in show. And I met Kyle online. I just saw some of his TikToks, and he had this series called The Stupid Shit I Used to Believe When I Was a Believer. And I just thought that was genius. And then so I started looking for him on Facebook, and I noticed that he was sharing a lot of positive, uplifting content. There are a lot of people in the community who are sharing the philosophy. There are a lot of people in the community who are sharing the science. We're killing it in the debate game. We are. But when it comes to helping people with day-to-day life, we're just kind of leaving them out there to, like figure that shit out on your own. And so I am highly attracted to people who are non-believers and who still have that people-centric approach, where it's not that I just want you to stop believing what you believe. That's not the fucking goal. I want a better world.
Yeah.
And so in order for me to get a better world, I need you to feel like you're being a better you. And that's a very complicated thing, because I can't define that for you. But I can help create safe space, and I can help you get the tools that you need to define what being a better you is for you. And in the context of community, we can help you find a space that is still contributing to the overall picture, where you don't have to feel like a fucking failure every day. And that's what people are wrestling with, not feeling like they're contributing, not feeling like they're a part of something, because that's what community is. Community isn't just, oh, I get to do something. Community is, I get to tangibly see my value in my relationships with other people. This is someone that I'm looking for, you know, and so I have to find a way to partner with this guy. Because again, it's the evangelical side, which evangelical really just means marketing. It's really just finding out what's the most attractive thing to do and doing it very aggressively. And so for me, it's strategy. And it's like, no, the other work that we do with the debates and stuff like that, that's going to strengthen people who have already left. The work we're doing with community, that's going to make it easier for people who are still on the fences to finally make the decision. And then for those who don't even have a reason to stay in there, they're not on the fences, they just don't have a reason to be there. When they see the people getting off the fences and joining secular community, they're just going to follow them. And that's how that's going to work. And so I'm just like, my biggest thing to the secular community is, let's do the work of people. If we do the work of people, this hard battle that you think we're fighting will become an easy one, because people don't care how much you know. You know what I'm saying? They want to know how much you care. And there's no reason we can't be that. You know what I'm saying? God was never the reason we cared for people. That was like my biggest realization, is that God was actually my hindrance to loving other folk. God was always the barrier to loving people completely. And so I'm like, we should promote ourselves as better lovers of people. We should make it very clear, know that we're the ones that got the real love. We're the ones that's actually capable of loving other people, because we don't have to measure our love from some bronze-aged booty book. We can actually measure our relationships with other people in reality.
Everything you just said comes from a very specific idea in our cult, which was the idea of the world tomorrow. You know, when all suffering would cease and the lion would lie down with the lamb, you know, right? So, like, I think I spent my whole childhood imagining this better world. And since God wasn't in front of me and I didn't know what God would look like, I kind of just made that better world myself in my own head. And so then when I stopped believing in it, God's like, well, fuck, I guess we got to do it ourselves.
Yes. But
So
you know,
let's go.
that's so key, because that's like that. I think that's what the idea of a God pulls on in all of us, is the idea that there is a better world. But what it robs us of is our agency in creating that better world. And so it's just like, for me, once God was gone, it was like, holy shit, this is our responsibility. If we want the better world, we've got to get really serious about creating it and figuring out what that means. And again, in our Sunday sessions, I always use the old anecdote of the blind people touching the elephant. I have to realize that if I really want a better world, I have to realize that I don't have a good enough view of what the world looks like on my own to be able to determine what better is for everybody. So an act in the only way, you know what I'm saying? So the only way that I can really get that bigger picture is that I got to be willing to hear from other people that are touching parts of the elephant that I have no visual on. I have no insight there. And I can't tell them better than them what they're touching and experiencing, which I see we do so often. I have no insight on your side of that shit at all, but I'm telling you, you're wrong. I'm blind touching my part, but I'm telling you, you're wrong. It's ridiculous to me.
This makes me think of, in my city here in Portland, we are about to have an election that's like what is it, ranked choice voting. So
Oh,
it's like a
yes.
really big deal, you know. But one of the big topics in town is our unhoused population, because it's good climate here. That
Oh,
means
yeah.
a lot of people want to be here. And the trouble is, every agency in the government has an idea of what they're going to do to make it better. And people are like, just give them whatever. And
Yep.
it's like, no, is anyone asking them?
Mhm.
Because if you ask them, there are a good number of the unhoused folks who don't want to be in those shelters because they have traumas that make that not safe for them. You know, so
Oh,
it's like any of our solutions that we come up with in this better world, which, you know, in theory, we're always working toward in small ways.
yes.
But all of our solutions have to be diversified. There is not, you know, like capitalism wants to do that. Capitalism
Yep.
wants, here's your good, better, best solutions,
Yep.
and it costs the price you expect. But that's not what any of this is going to be.
Mm-mm.
You know, like we have to have multi-pronged solutions that address the humans, because
Absolutely.
that's the piece. Like we're missing the humans that make up the systems. So yeah, it really resonates that why aren't we looking at people and their needs? It's a God thing, right? Like the way we have all of our systems structured, it makes sense
Yes.
given that we all had this like God belief, patriarchy, whatever, like
Well, it's the
our
all-seeing
systems are
eye, right?
yeah.
You know, like I see everything. No, I don't need to see any, I don't need anybody else's view. I have the all-seeing eye. I
Uh-huh.
I thought about this the other day. I was riding by and there was a man out, you know, who was asking for money. And I had this thought experiment in my head because I've always been the person who give people, homeless people, things, and then I'd have people challenge that and say, well, you don't know what they're going to do with that or this and this. And so, you know, sometimes I'm like, I really don't care what they're going to do with it, because I'm not so shallow to think that my $2 is going to, you know, change their lives. I'm not so shallow to think that my $50 even is going to be the thing that's going to change their lives. And so it made me realize that a lot of times, even when we're doing things that look good, we're not actually doing them for the reasons we say we're doing them. We're doing them for us. We didn't actually say, how can I actually help this person? The thing became, what can I do to feel good about myself? Or what can I do not to feel bad about myself? Which either
Or
way,
what's
the
the right
focus
thing to
isn't.
do?
Yes. Either way, the focus isn't on that person. The focus isn't on solving that person's problem. The focus isn't on helping that person be better. As a matter of fact, that's one of the ways we don't realize that we otherize these other populations is by not even giving you a say. It's just I know what's best for you. It's that all-seeing eye. And unfortunately, what we do with that is then once we think we know what's best for one, we also think we know what's best for all. And then I often define professionalism as thorough concern. I know thoracity is not a word, but it's poetic, so I like it. Thoracity of concern. You know?
That's good.
But you know, like it's just thorough concern. And I realized, like, especially, you know, as a former pastor, I realized that's one of the things that we didn't really have because we had the illusion of, well, as long as they're hearing Jesus, then that's all that matters. But then I even begin to realize this with politics, because it's just like we sell so many shallow solutions that demonstrate that no one actually did the work here. No one actually did the homework. No one actually went out here and actually got in. There was no field work done here. There was no grassroots assessments. And that's why we keep coming up with, like, everything we come up with is going to be flawed in some way, but we just keep coming up with things that are supremely flawed because it feels like we're not even trying in a lot of ways. But I also feel like we don't have many people who are even setting the standard for what trying looks like outside of athleticism. You know, like we have to look to athletes for all of our, you know, inspiration of how to try, you know?
Yeah.
It's like our window of effort has been shrunk down to the length of getting to either fourth quarter profits or a 4-year election cycle. And that you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's like it just makes us really myopic about understanding what's actually needed because we're
Yes.
caught in the hamster wheel. And that's not even talking about everybody who's out there working their job and their 2 side jobs, hustles, trying to make it all work, you know?
Yeah. Well, even if we think in our mind, we could do this better, we could do that better. It's like we just trust other people to do it. If our mind is telling us something, of course,
Yes.
Christianity has always told us, lean not to your own understanding.
Yes.
So if I'm thinking this could be better, I'm like, oh well, I'm either wrong, or someone else is going to take care of it. Like we don't trust ourselves to take that first step.
The key characteristic of Christianity in its adherence across all systems is this practice known as shepherd seeking. And it's one of the things that makes it very difficult for people, even after they deconstruct, to actually get some sense of fidelity of self. Because
I had a question for you too, Darante. So we were actually raised in a doomsday cult. Not only that, but both Patty and I, years later, when the cult split apart and essentially just kind of left us to our own devices in the world that we were taught to hate, both of us almost around the same time found our way into evangelicalism, whether it was these people know the vulnerability of others and they put their claws in there. But I have found that, and somehow we found our way out of that too. But there's a lot of people that are in cults, not just the one we were in, but somehow they find themselves away from the cult and think, they find themselves in evangelicalism or one of these mainstream churches, and they think, oh, well, this is more acceptable. And the conclusion that I've come to is maybe just because they have been taught, that God is this monster, which he is. Anyone who's read the Bible knows he's a fucking monster. But they paint him in a prettier image because of Jesus and all that. And so I feel like they steer towards mainstream Christianity, when really I think atheism is the goal. I just want to be free of all of it. So do you have thoughts on what drives people to take maybe a step down in the right direction, like this way, which I don't think is necessarily in the right direction, because I think evangelicalism is sometimes more fucked up, because it's like this fakeness where people are fake to other people's faces, whereas in a cult you're just like, the world sucks. This is the way it is. God's going to destroy everything, though. Don't worry. You're one of the chosen ones. So to brush it aside. But take the floor. I'm curious your thoughts.
Corn syrup has probably killed more people than rat poison because it comes in a more prettier package. Nothing that it's in says poison, Wow. And so I think that's one of the reasons that it's really easy for people to do that. But it's also, it goes back to the language, right? So you say in a cult, you're taught to distrust the world. And pretty much that's what Christianity is. Be ye separate, come out from among them, but at the end of the day, it's not. See, that's just the poetry. That's not the point. It's not that you're taught to not trust the world. It's you're taught not to trust yourself. And that's the reason why you can't trust the world, because you don't know any better. And that's what leads to that practice of shepherd seeking. You get into that place where even when you break away from the belief that, that this is the main God or that this is the main belief, you still have this intrinsic internal belief that has been forced down your throat since you were a child, that you are overwhelmingly inadequate and you will never, ever, ever be able to make good decisions for yourself. So it makes you feel like even when I leave this, someone else has to make the rules for me because I can't do this myself. I can't trust myself. And this is what these religious beliefs rob us of. Ultimately, anytime it takes the most important voice for your life and puts it outside of you, that is a dangerous place to live. The most important voice, and you have to be able to trust your voice above all. I'll pull from Shakespeare, this above all, to thine own self be true. And that's what Christianity, and particularly and pretty much the Abrahamic faiths, rob you of. That ability to kind of be true to yourself. And that's the only way you can gain fidelity in self. Imagine being in a relationship with somebody that wasn't true to you. You'd never be able to trust that person. And so if you're not being true to yourself, how do you build trust in yourself? If you're always having to feel like I have to hide that part of me because that part of me is bad or negative or demonic or inspired by my flesh, you will never get a sense of self where you just be able to be comfortable and say, you can't trust anything you're not comfortable with. And if you're not comfortable with yourself, you can't trust yourself.
Yes. We often talk on our channel about people not really dealing with their own discomfort well at all. Like people do not know how to handle it. And that's why people lash out in the comment section, maybe of all our
Yep.
channels.
Yep.
Like, there's something there that's trigger. And you brought up a very good point, Darante. Like, if they hear one thing out of you that triggers them, like all of a sudden everything else becomes irrelevant instead of just listening to what you have to say.
To link this back to the unhoused population, everything I have come across tells me that what they need is to be given money, because that's the thing stopping them from doing anything that they want to do. Right? And I think that should be given with no requirement of what they're supposed to do with it. Because when you give money with not a requirement or whatever, you are also serving up a healthy dose of empowerment, because that $50 or whatever, or that $800 to get you through the month or whatever it is. Yeah, it says, hey, I think you can do this. Like, the other people who have a lot of money, they're probably spending some of it on drugs too. So if you do that, like, whatever, but you are a human and you exist. So you should have a right to have, I mean, I'm a big believer in like basic income kind of stuff. Like, if you are a human, like, you deserve to have food in your belly and a roof over your head. Like, it doesn't have to be fancy or whatever. But like, I fully think that there are so few people that would actually mooch off of a system if they felt empowered, if they felt cared for, but they don't.
And heard.
When they, heard, when you don't feel cared for, when you don't feel heard, you're just scrambling for whatever you can get. And of course, you're just going to rest back on your laurels if that's all you've ever known.
Well, going back to that little bit, I don't know the exact quote here, but I heard something along the lines of like, when you day drink as a rich person, it's considered classy. If you day drink when you're a poor person, it's considered a travesty. Just like that example of, you know, people that go camping in their nice tents and their fancy RVs, but you have a homeless person that's in the middle of the woods. You know, that's not acceptable.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Camping as homeless cosplay. Is that what you're saying?
Right. I love that. But it shows how much the politics of respectability go into play. And this was definitely something I noticed just as a Black person, right? And it was something I even saw in media. As I started deconstructing and deconverting, I realized I had a lot of ideologies about things that weren't accurate. And they felt positive, like drinking is bad. It makes you a bad person. If you drink, you're going to be a woman beater. If you drink, you're going to be a brawler. And these are ideas that I had, and I was trying to figure out, where did I get these ideas from? And I grew up while in a not very diverse community. I was a latchkey kid, so I watched a lot of diverse shows, and I began to realize, like, whoa, the messaging towards alcohol in Black shows and the messaging towards alcohol in white shows was starkly different.
Really?
Like in the white shows, people could have a beer, some wine, somebody could pour some glass of hard liquor at any time after a hard days of work, and it's no big deal. In Black shows, every time alcohol showed up, it was the subject matter of the show. Someone, you know, is addicted to alcohol. And I began to realize, like, how these nuances, number one, just made me afraid of life, but also then attach these other ideologies that, if you see anybody with alcohol, they must be depressed, they must be wasting their life, they must be on the bad end of things. And it was just like, the only way you could attach yourself to this ideology of respectability is to ignore reality. Because then, but you see the same thing with marijuana. And every time you see marijuana, especially the campaigns about it, it's like minority communities who are out here thugging, you know, the rugged, thuggish bone type of thing. But then when you watch shows like Silicon Valley, or you watch stuff about people who are building big business empires, they're hitting the bong every 5 minutes, you know?
Right.
And it was just like, whoa,
very cool.
You know, it's that respectability thing at play, where it's just like, we determine who can do something. And then if you haven't hit this level, you have no right to engage that. And it's even worse than that. It's not that you have no right to, you can't handle it. If you do that, it's going to make you a bad person. And it's like, But I'll show you how religion plays that role. Religion creates that line of distinction by almost in a way of trying to create a divide between good and evil, right? To say that these people can handle it because they're so far away from the will of God that that's just how things are for them. So they're so used to the devil that they can do those things. But because you're actually pure and trying to be close to God, these things would taint you and they would make life hard for you. They're already on the devil's team. You know, we create this type of language and not realizing how it plays into our social politics with each other.
Yeah.
Right. Words build the world. Wow.
Right?
I mean, we were just saying something very similar with sexuality, that like so much of our church messaging, you know, well, and cultural talks about men and how they are such sexual whatever, and they're always lustful, and then it's like women are just kind of left out of that whole story.
Yes.
Except for like making sure that, you know, their skirt's long enough or whatever. And it's like, well, if you never talk about women's sexuality, they're just gonna think there isn't one. It's like they didn't have to say it. It was just taught by omission.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Whew.
And you also, you set up men when you create that type of language, you give them a hard-coded excuse to be predators when you set up
yes.
because you're telling them you can't help it. This is just how you're wired.
Oh, yes.
I remember when I was still a believer, one of my mentors, he'd always get on to us. He's like, you got to make sure you're not following everybody on TikTok, because if you see that booty, it's going to mess with you. And it's just like, I remember thinking about that one time. And I'm like, that is so patronizing to actually treat people that way, to just be like, no, if you see it, you're not going to be able to resist it, and you're going to feel the need to do something. And I started thinking, like, how harmful is that? Yeah. Especially for people who don't have an internal locus of control. They're going to attach themselves to that in a very unhealthy way, and going to continue to reinforce that ideology. I can't help it. I can't help it. I can't help it. And that's how you create very, very dangerous ideologies around sex in men. Even myself, like, I had to wrestle with this idea of like, why do I think that I just got to have it all the time? It's like, oh shit, I've been hypersexualized in my life. And it's actually just, it was a lot of work that I had to do to just be like, okay, let me bring sex back into reality. And then it got healthy. Dr. Ray mentioned that on the retreat. He talked about an interesting phenomenon is that when pastors deconvert, that many of them who had porn addictions and sex addictions prior to deconversion no longer have those problems anymore, because the issue of repression is dealt with. And now sex is taken out of this extreme and brought into this natural world that is just something, a part of your life as natural as breathing or eating, you know, or going to the bathroom.
Right. Well, Dr. Daryl Ray, he's got some very interesting thoughts on sex. I've heard a lot of his talks. He's a great guy.
Yes, for sure.
You bring up something that I think is so important, though, because that idea of, oh no, because you're godly, you can't handle these things. Like, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you've been kept from reality, you have not been able to develop the risk assessment, the ability to judge, does that person mean me well or harm? You know, like, these are things we learn from interacting in the world with lots of people, and we miss out on that. So they're right. We aren't able to handle it when we've been in church our whole life. It absolutely will, like a demon, grab a hold of us, you know?
Which makes it easier for them to sell the cure repeatedly, because that means every time we go and try to do it on our own, something shocking and disappointing is going to happen, which is going to drive us right back to the altar of conformity, where they're going to be able to say, don't worry, Jesus knew you wasn't going to be able to handle it anyway, and he's here to handle it. You just stay stuck, sorry, you know, and Jesus will be strong for you. Again, there may have been a time from a sociological perspective that these type of ideologies may have been helpful. I do have that type of nuance where I understand that back in the day, we didn't have social structures, societal structures, and things of that nature. I get it. But where we are today, it's absolutely damaging. There was once upon a time where it was beautiful to speculate about alchemy. Now that we have chemistry, it is damaging to do so.
Yes.
It is absolutely irresponsible. And I think that's how we have to treat religious superstition. At one point, this was beautiful. Let's preserve it in our history books and in our poetry. But please, let's understand that this is dangerous now.
Yeah. It's kind of like that meme that's been floating around for a while. It's death that he's knocking on these doors. He's destroying the Greek gods. He's destroying the Roman gods.
Yes.
He's just knocking on the door of Christianity next. Yeah.
That's it.
I'm coming for you.
That's it. Yes.
Done with you.
That was a big part of my undoing, was like, oh, people used to think that Zeus and Athena were real.
We're real. That's right.
Oh, wait a second.
Boy.
I mean, people still think Vishnu and Ganesh and Krishna exist.
Yes.
And I realize, like, what Babylonian or Canaanite gods existed before that, like what do you call them? Sumerian gods, Darante?
Oh, well, see, there's so many, because this is the thing that all right, this is one of my like pet peeves with language. And this is one of the reasons, this is one of the ways I can point out pseudo intelligence in my comments really quick. And so that's why some of the people who even seem well-meaning get the poor fella treatment. Because people lock on to things as concrete and as constants. And human society has never been such a thing.
Right.
And so, yes, while there are a group of people who may have been the Sumerians, a part of those people may have been the Persians at one time as well. And that's one of the biggest reasons we don't actually understand the genealogy of the Abrahamic faiths in the way that we claim to, because we completely separate them from the Canaanites, but they are Canaanites. And so if you're trying to study the Israelites without studying the Canaanites, you're not getting a clear picture. And so when it comes to stuff like that, to me, it's any name will do. It's going to determine which period in time you're talking about and what exact geolocation you're talking about. And even then, there's still so much nuance, because what history calls people isn't always what people call themselves. So even when we talk about ancient Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians wouldn't have called themselves that. They would have called themselves Cometian. But even though I say Cometian, I don't know what tongue they used. I don't know what dialect they used. So I have no way of actually attaching myself to any form of accuracy. But it's me knowing that I don't have any form of accuracy there that lets me be able to recognize the con artists when they come up and say, no, this is exactly the way it was. At that moment, I realized that human complexity and nuance is completely lost on you, and you are likely a fool parading as a professional.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I really struggled with growing up was asking questions, Darante. Somehow I got it in my mind that I was supposed to have all the answers, and I was considered just dumb if I didn't know. And therefore, I did not progress. Like, I didn't do well in school because I thought, oh, shit. Here I have just been inside my own head during this entire class again, so I have no idea what they said, and I didn't ask anything because I'm like, well, what do I ask? I just missed the entire class because my mind was elsewhere. It always wants to be elsewhere.
But you know, like I had a similar experience. And I was a straight A student and I passed all the classes, but I had no understanding of what I was passing because there was so much pressure to feel like I should know the answer. And so, and then of course the idea of asking, like, you know, like a question was just like, oh, you don't get it, you're stupid. And so I put pressure on myself to guess. And so the whole way through education, through my public education, I didn't actually learn. I just kept guessing and kept getting it right most of the times, or at least enough times not to fail. You know what I'm saying? Enough times to get an A without really having an understanding of what I was learning, because unfortunately the school system doesn't do a good job of actually promoting an educational environment, because it makes you afraid of getting it wrong. You know, like I'm an advocate for keeping tests, but removing them for a way of measuring the final product, because there isn't a final product in education. Testing should be used to let us know where you are, to know what we can work on. Why would we use tests at the end instead of using them a part of the way to say, okay, this is what we know to work on? But instead, I'm going to wait to the very end and give you this test that defines how well you did. And if you fail, that's it. No chance to go back and work on this shit. You got an F here, but good news, you get to go to the next class. What the fuck?
Oh, that is almost just as bad as it is memorization.
Yes.
Like Patty, she got straight A's, but she didn't remember a lot of this shit because it was just rote memorization.
Yes.
And
Well, and I got out into the working world and I was just like, oh, I'm waiting for my assignment with the rubric.
Yep.
Like, wait, I have to figure things out. You're empowering me. I've never felt that before. Wait, what? It was like I didn't understand how it worked because school did not equal working in a corporate environment somehow.
Nope.
I don't know how that is.
It is even worse in India. Let me tell you, I've seen firsthand the school system in India, and it's all about memorization there. I'm sorry, it is. It's just memorization, and if your child is not doing well in school, you are absolutely fucked. And the suicide rates are so high. A really good movie that I can recommend from India, Three Idiots. It's a very popular movie in India, and it does touch on this situation of suicide in India. It's a movie everyone should see in it pertaining to the school system, and we should be focusing on school education around the world.
Around the world, globally.
Yeah,
Sure.
see other cultures and what might work better, what isn't working, and how can we help each other out to fix this entire system.
There's no reason we've actually put these barriers in place.
Right.
We've just put them there, and it's just we're going to honor them regardless of how they impact people, and that's terrifying.
Wow. That kind of reminds me of another little thing that had happened here. I was told in business school an example. I don't know if it was a true story or not, but some guy that had gotten, like, he had just gotten a job. Right. And he was in the middle of a meeting. Well, that just happens to be the one day that he forgets to turn his phone off. And his boss is so petty that he decided to give him some, nickname, like degrading nickname. And that was his nickname forever, as long as he worked there. And I thought, you know what? Do you think you're a perfect person? Like you would never shut that. We're human. I like people that are so real that it's okay to make mistakes. From time to time, we can't possibly follow all the rules. Fucking people, perfect people are boring. They're fucking boring. I'm sorry.
I always push people to challenge the utility of the rule. Like, what the fuck did I break because my phone rang? Like, I put it back on silent. We're good. Like, if you're so damn shallow that if my phone rings, you've lost your train of thought and can't continue the meeting, maybe you don't need to be the one in charge.
It's like those people that get angry at people who are still driving the speed limit, but they're driving slower than maybe other people, like honking. I'm like, go the fuck around. I'm sorry, they're wasting a few seconds of your life. Fuck all the way up. Like,
oh my goodness. Yes.
Drives me crazy. Like,
and
I'm not saying I'm not guilty of that too. Sometimes I'm in a hurry and grandpa's in front of me and I get stuck. But we should stop doing that.
That's when you know you're a healthy human, when the shit that you call out on other humans, you're willing to call out in yourself. Like, that's the reason I can call this out in other humans, because I called this shit out with me. I'm just like, hey, D, you should really stop doing this. You know? But that's the only way I get better, though. If I don't do that, if I don't feel that comfort to say, all right, that shit kind of sucks, man. That's not the best way to approach this. You're wasting your fucking time. Do better. Like, that's the only way I get better. I can't get better without telling myself to do better. Yes.
Right. It's like when we're in resistance and like, I can't accept the fact that horrible thing happened. We are just stuck. Like we are not moving from that spot. But as soon as we can be like, yep, that is the reality of the situation. It's super shitty. I'm not happy with it. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to have to do my work about that. But it is what it is. And as soon as you're there, it's like you're back in your body and you can handle shit.
Yes.
One of the things that both my wife and I experienced, because we were raised by single mothers. She was actually raised by her mother. I just had a single mother. But one of the things we both experienced was this narrative that because we didn't have two parents, that something was wrong with us, that life was broken, that we'd always be limited. And that impacted me heavily as a pastor, because again, going back to that plays into that shepherd seeking practice. Because I didn't have this shepherd at home, I'm already way behind the curve. And so I can't engage the world the way that other people do because I never had a man in my life to teach me how to be a man, you know? And so like I spent a lot of time making myself very subservient to other mentors as a way of trying to kind of feel that need. And then I remember a major part of my deconversion was just like, bruh, family is a social construct. It does not make you or break you. It is nice to have for sure, but you didn't. And there's nothing you can change about that. You do not have to cling to that as a weakness. That is the reality of the world. There are birds that kick their babies out of the nest as soon as they fucking can. Why would you sit here and limit your life when you had a better start than they did? And I think it's so hard for us as humans to really appreciate the experience of humanity because we're always judging our experience by what other people have. Instead of just enjoying the fact that you're here. And once I realized, I was like, no, I didn't miss anything. I came into the party fully equipped. You know what I'm saying? I may have a little smaller team, but for me, I actually find that is freeing. Because while other people have these emotional attachments that make them stay stuck to toxic and unhealthy people, I don't have that. I get to choose the people who are in my life. And so I love it.
Darante, we are from what you would call a typical family structure, mother and father still married, 4 kids, and it couldn't be more devoid of healthy emotions.
Yes.
Communication, and it's just there's no love and joy there whatsoever. It's just an awkward experience for us. And so I some of the kindest, bravest, the strongest people that I've ever met have come from these so-called broken homes.
That's it. Yep.
They are resilient as fuck.
Yes. They're so resilient.
But you know, like I think the thing is that life isn't easy for anybody. That was a hard thing for me to wrestle with, right? Or me to come to terms with. Because when you grow up poor, when you see people who are not poor, your perspective is because they are not poor, life is not hard. And that's just not how humanity works. Money solves a lot of problems. It just doesn't solve the complexity of humanity. And then humans, we are so complex. I mean, like you think about the poorest of the poor today, and then you take them and you set them in society 5,000 years ago. They're probably on the top of the food chain at that moment. Life is great for them. But what that really speaks to is how unsatisfying we are, or how hard it is to satisfy us, because we don't know ourselves yet. We don't know the whole scope yet. And so even if we had everything that we thought that we wanted, we just realized that there are other things that we want. That's a byproduct of evolution. Is the more you grow, the more you can do, and the more you can do, the more you know, and the more you know, the more you want. You know, wanting is a byproduct of knowledge, you know. And I think that's one of the things that makes it so hard to solve the economic problem, because we think want is just a thing of desire, and it's just a thing of passion. And it's like, no, want is a thing of exposure and knowledge. It's a thing of curiosity. It's what drives intelligence. And when we deprive other people of the ability to want, we rob them of the agency of intelligence, because that's what pushes it forward, you know?
Yeah.
Yikes.
So for all the listeners, that is Darante LaMar. If you have not yet subscribed to Darante LaMar's channel, go and do that now, and you will not be disappointed with the wisdom you find there.
You're saying everything that I'm thinking, Darante, but you're just saying it much more eloquently.
That's the preacher. That's definitely the preacher.
Like inspirational words like that.
Well, you know, like I think a hard thing that I had to wrestle with, and this started before I deconverted, was the utility of preaching. The type of preacher I was in my early years, I was like the Holy Ghost type of preacher. I didn't preach from notes or anything like that. God has to give me the words, because if you're doing anything else other than that, you are you're manipulating the spirit, and you ain't supposed to do that. But like the last 5 to 6 years I was a pastor, my church became increasingly urban, which was increasingly Black and increasingly poor. So we did have plenty of white folks at our church, but they were all poor. That was typically how that worked. We had some other nationalities as well, but they was all poor. Because of that, they had a different attachment to church than I was used to. Even though I grew up in poor churches, I had an attachment to like the mainstream churches. And so I started getting pulled into those churches and to their style of preaching, which wasn't performative. And I think that was one of the interesting things that the non-denominational movement had for a while, is that it wasn't performative preaching. It kind of looked like lectures. You know what I'm saying? And so in my early years, that's just how it was, just kind of like lectures. And so even though I was a Black preacher, like I didn't preach like a Black preacher into the last few years of being a pastor, because it was only then that I began to appreciate the cultural aspect of it and the performative aspect, which was really fun, which also helped to kind of lead to more of my deconstruction and deconversion, because then I'm like, oh no, this is a performance. Many of my mentors who had several different types of stylistics that they incorporated in their preaching, they would practice with their bands to make sure that they got those things right. So it'd be like, okay, at this part in the sermon, I'm going to go here. Is there anybody in here who could look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I came with my mind made up, come hell or high water, I will bless the Lord. And what I want you to do right here is go here on this key. Like, and they'd have all of that. And I thought that would like make me like, oh, this is horrible. But as an artist, I was like, oh, finally, because I thought God was going to make me do this one day. This whole time I was just waiting. I thought God was doing this to y'all. So now that I'm seeing that this is the performance of it, it gave me such a beautiful appreciation for it, which just came at a really great time because I was already deconstructing, that I just had a passion for it. I don't know if y'all have seen The Righteous Gemstones, incredible show. John Goodman, who used to play the husband on Roseanne, he plays the father, which is the pastor of this mega church, and does like an amazing job. Like, I mean, if I was still going to be a believer, even though he's this mega church and it's real crazy, his character is right on spot of who I'd be. Like he's the person. But John, he made a statement. He said preaching is performance art, and he says it's a forgotten art form. And so I've definitely still clung to that. You know, he was one of those people that kind of gave me that's right. Like, I don't preach the way I preach just because of, well, I don't believe in God. So I know that God never did any of this for me anyway. This was my response to listening to other people, adopting their styles, navigating what I thought people responded to. Also growing up, listening to people like James Earl Jones, Lawrence Fishburne's, Samuel L. Jackson, Will Smith, Eddie Murphy. I've adopted all of these characters in my personality to create this type of charismatic persona. And that's what makes me an effective communicator in a sense. It's like, man, James Earl Jones, rest in peace. Like that, I wanted to be that man. Like when I was a kid, like from The Sandlot to Lion King to Coming to America, whatever he was in, like I was like, this is the guy that I wanted to be. Actually, he is the reason that I wanted to be a preacher. There's a movie that he was in called The Vernon John Story. And it's a biopic about the pastor who took over the church that Dr. King ended up taking over before Dr. King became rushed to the limelight. The pastor they fired tells you a lot about why Dr. King was more attainable for them. Because Vernon Johns was just an amazing, like, he was the reason I wanted to be a pastor, because he was teaching his community how to get power, how to get self-sufficiency. He was they wanted him to preach to their fairy tales and their superstitions. And he told them stuff like, you're never going to get power if you keep spending your money in their stores, grow your own vegetables and sell them within your own community. And they ultimately ended up firing him because of that, because he caused so much trouble, and they hired Dr. King in his stead.
I mean, I knew that Dr. King was whitewashed and like his message was watered down. I knew
For
that.
sure.
But like I didn't realize he was replacing someone who was even more fiery in like really real ways.
Like, well, I think Christianity in the Black community has always been the more acceptable form of resistance. And so every time there's been a real social movement in the Black community, all of a sudden the Black churches get support from certain political parties to be out front and center. Wow. And it always happens at the same time that these other movements are actually making progress, which is why I often tell people, when you think about the 60s, I tell people, don't think about the civil rights movement. Think about the Black suffering movement and the Black power movement. Those were the two options you had in the 60s. You were either going to align yourself with suffering or you were going to align yourself with power. And the people who were aligned with power were the ones who were silenced, quieted, even though they're the ones who actually generated real social change, while the ones who were aligned with suffering got things passed that ended up getting repealed.
Yeah. Well, I suppose now is a good time to ask about Patty's Black Lives Matter sign. Darante, out of all the like hate comments, nasty comments we get, it's usually about that sign right there. And so I know Patty was definitely wondering, like, should I keep this up?
My whole thing is, whatever I do, I'm going to have a thread of anti-racism going in it. And I'm going to not do that well because I'm a white lady and I don't know these things, but I am going to do the best I can with what I know. Yeah. So when George Floyd was murdered in 2020, and then Trump sent his goons to my city, I was like, oh, hell no. And I got a couple families and we went down to our local sheriff's office and we stood outside of it and told the feds to go home. And I went downtown when the Wall of Moms was happening. And this was one of the signs that was part of that. And I did that in good faith as a white lady, knowing I don't know shit, but fully believing, not necessarily the organization, but the words that Black lives do matter. And that is because Black lives have been treated like they don't matter for hundreds of years. Okay. And so that's where that is. But my whole thing is, if this is here and it is providing help and allyship to people, great. If it is causing more harm than help, I'll rip it off the wall right now. So you, Darante, I trust you. You are a Black man. I think you said you felt safe to have a conversation about this here. And so let's do it. I want to know all the things you think about Black Lives Matter.
Well, like I think when it comes to Black Lives Matter, like it's a mixed bag, right? Because you have the organization, you have the movement, and then you have the message. And I think the message is most prominent and most powerful when it comes from allies. And so anytime I see an ally with that message, I'm always warmed. My heart feels well. And I think the reason that we know that it's most powerful as a message from allies is that allies get the most attacked when saying it. You know, because it's literally telling the allies, you have no right to say this. Why are you saying that their lives matter? Don't you do that? You know, and so as a message from allies, as a message from allies, I think it's one of the most powerful messages that's out there. And I wish we had more allies, whether they're white, Hispanic, indigenous to this country, or whatever else. And I think that's the thing that we don't often talk about. We often hold white people accountable for being our allies while not holding the other cultures that exist on this country or just on this planet accountable. And I'm like, no, we got to be all in this together. We have to all be allies of each other. Okay, so that's the good part. The good part is, I think it's an excellent message for allies, and I want to see it more and more from allies.
All right.
Now let's talk about it as a movement.
Okay.
As a movement, it was concerning for me the first time I heard it. And I guess because I gravitated more so to people like Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Huey P. Newton, people who took a position of sovereignty, of sustainability, of self-determination, self-government. that message sounded weak to me. It wasn't Black power. Just we matter. I think there was a comedian who did a great job of highlighting that out of all the things you can name this movement, you chose this passive place. And that's that position of the magical Negro for me, of the slave who has to beg for acceptance. And my problem with that is, as a Black man, I don't need anybody else to think that I matter. I got that on lock for me. I will always treat you like I matter. I promise you that. So I felt like the message was, as far as from a movement perspective, was sorely lacking. Also, just the action of protesting and boycotting in the Black community has been severely deteriorated by the imagery of the civil rights, which means we no longer have any outcomes attached to our protesting or our boycotting. So we boycott until we're tired, when the only way to make a boycott important is to make the company you're boycotting irrelevant. So it is not that I'm boycotting you until you change your mind and give me a token. Is that I am sending you the message that I no longer need you. Anything other than that is not a power move. You know what I'm saying? The protesting aspect is that, unfortunately, we end up doing a lot of damage in our own communities without, and like, no, if we move to the communities that are doing the damage to us and tear them up, okay, I might feel a little better. That feels like war, but we're literally where we are because nobody's going to let us go into the communities where we're not at. We're not going to get to those communities. But what we do is we take advantage of our most childish impulses to say, I'm going to make you feel like you're doing something important, when at the end of the day, it's tied to no actionable income, which now brings me to my problem with the organization, which we now have history to speak to it, is that the organization never made any claims to attach themselves to any actionable incomes. They attach themselves to ideologies. And that's something that's always going to concern me, because I don't want to follow a personality. I want to follow a plan. And that's what bothered me from the very beginning with Black Lives Matters as an organization, is that there was never actually a plan to address the issues that they were protesting about. And I just had the sneaky suspicion that somebody else saw an opportunity to enrich themselves off of a pain point of our people, which we've had way too many. Like that's become the strategy. Whether you're talking about Al Sharpton, whether you're talking about Jesse Jackson, there are way too many people in this community who attach themselves to our pain points, who don't actually have any solutions for those problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's, like I said, it's a mixed bag. As an ally, as an ally's message is powerful. When you think of a people who are trying to find their identity, my life matters. Yikes. That's not a very strong statement.
That he just wrapped it up for you, Pat. Wow. Great 3 categories. This wasn't the first time you've been asked this question, right, Darante?
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. You had the answer. Wow.
Right. I mean, that really hits for me, the matter. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like people understood that when the phrase kind of started being thrown around. There was a follow-up of like, mattering
Matters.
is the least or something. What did they say?
Yeah.
Like, mattering should be the fucking baseline. Like, but that's the level of where we're at, is like,
Yes.
even fucking just mattering didn't happen. Like, what are we doing? You know? And so it's like sad that that allies have to be out here saying, can they just fucking matter like everybody? Like, what the fuck?
But I do want to hit that, because that is one of the things that they did really well. Because this is something positive I got from that movement, because I was still kind of stuck in respectability politics myself. And because of that movement, especially in its early days, it really promoted this message of, you don't have to be in a suit for your life to matter. You don't have to have a degree for your life to matter. You don't have to be one of the Black people that we praise and promote for your life to matter. You don't have to be the token Black person. And that's why I say the message I get. And that's why I always add the nuance. And so when you first asked me, I was just like, no, keep your sign. Like, no, I don't think we should ever be that petty anyway. I think it's a horrible thing to hold other people responsible for our triggers. For me to say this person is saying Black Lives Matter, but because I have some other issues with the organization, I think they shouldn't be saying that particular sentence at all. How childish is that?
There's a Dolly Parton mural somewhere that has a Black Lives Matter on it. I want to say it is Nashville.
That tracks.
Yeah. And they did that on purpose. It was like the whitest woman in the world they attached matter to. But it's interesting because a lot of the responses we get from that is the typical all lives matter. And again, I've heard it said from many Black people, like, yeah, we understand that all lives matter, but for fuck's sakes, there are some people that have had it so much worse. And I like to use the candy bar analogy. Say you have a group of people, the majority of those people get one candy bar every day for a year, right? And the minority group doesn't get any. Well, guess what? They all get the one candy bar on one day and the rest of them don't. Just one day. Everyone else gets it for those 365 days, but they get it only once. And that's the day where the majority group complains. So like, we didn't get a fucking candy bar. God damn it. Give me my candy bar. I'm like, you just got it every other day of the year. These people get it that one day of the year. And you're complaining that they now have a candy bar on this one day. You're like, that's probably a bad analogy, but I thought
I love it. It's because that's reality. But it's like, imagine going out and someone has like a Jesus Saves poster. Just go up to them, because the people who have the Jesus Saves posters are also the people who have the All Lives Matters. Go up and put an All God Saves poster right up next to them.
All God Matter. You put fucking Vishnu and Krishna in there.
That's right.
I heard if this comes from an ally, it's a good thing. So,
That's
and I have
right.
gotten other good comments on it. So,
well, I mean, you think if you were an ally for a trans person or a person in the pride community, and you put gay lives matter, trans lives matters, while people outside of that community may not appreciate the message, there's people in that community are always going to appreciate that allyship, because they see, regardless of what the attachment is for those other people, this is a person communicating, saying that they are here for me. And while I don't necessarily feel the need to tell other people my life matters because I'm going to fight like it, I need to know that when I'm fighting like it, that there are other people back there saying, no, his life matters, so he deserves to fight like it, and get the fuck out of his way.
Yeah. That's right. Everybody get the fuck out of Darante's way. Oh, I know. I guess I was kind of curious too, Darante. I mean, we've talked about your channel, and the channel is probably most people's entry point into the community-based universe that you're developing over on your side of the world there. But you have a whole lot more than the channel going on. So I'm kind of curious if you wanted to share. Oh, there's part of it. Yeah, if you wanted to share all the things that you have going and promote the heck out of all your stuff.
Okay, so there's no way for me to talk about all of the things I got going on without me coming off as either a narcissist or someone who's trying to take over the world. And I want everybody to know that both are true. Both are absolutely true. But no, like I've been like when I was a believer, my idea was that God would use me to help move the world to a better place, and that I'd play a very instrumental, just be an instrumental role in that. And so when I let God go, it was just like, oh, I don't need God to do that. I can look and see what's going around in the world and say, well, Darante, you seem to be concerned. Why not do something about it? You don't really need anybody's permission. And the only person that's going to really enable you to get there is you. And so that's what all of the stuff we do kind of revolves around. So to walk through this. We, of course, we make books. And so I have my most recent book is Christ Held Up, which Nancy just held up. Ooh, that worked. Yes. That's actually the shortest book that I've ever written. But it's the book that took me the longest to write, or not the longest to write, the longest to publish, because I started writing it before I deconverted. And it was just a book of me wrestling with, why is it taking like 2,000 plus years for Jesus to come back? And so, and I wanted to have an honest relationship with scripture about this, not just with what people thought. And then so after I deconverted, I was like, I don't know if this book would even have any value now that I'm an atheist. And then it was just like, no, it actually does have more value, because I wrote it from a place of honesty and authenticity. And these questions are still important, even though I don't believe in a Jesus, period. Other than that, like, there may have been a dude around, like, but he didn't do anything important or significant or magical, so I'm not interested. But there are other people who are still attached to the ideology. And then there are other people who have family members and friends who are close to them that they have strong relationships with, and they want to be able to have these conversations without coming off as a total jackass. And this book is such a unaggressive read, and it presents the information from a way that a believer would appreciate having the conversation, because I wrote it while still being a believer. I also write fiction. That's my novel, Memphis, the biggest book that I've ever written. And that's just all dealing with my hyperproductivity stuff. Like, I feel like I have to be doing stuff partly because I wasted so much time. My wife and I, we lead a nonprofit called DLDD World Group. Our books are a part of our nonprofit. They're actually part of a branch. All right, this is going to make me sound crazy. They're a part of a branch of our DLDD World Group called Freedom House. And Freedom House is a part of a branch called Omniverse. Even though I don't have any of this stuff in structured, I have all of this stuff mapped. I have the infrastructure for all of these things. And so I speak of it on that type of way, so that as pieces are coming together, I can figure out how things flow. But the whole purpose of our Omniverse line of type of operations is to create a form of entertainment that actually values elevation, not just expression. Because entertainment has become solely expression, without any real attachment to like elevating us and helping push us. And the thing is, like, expression can do that, but we have to be intentional about it. So I do have plans of one day building Omniverse out into a major streaming platform, which we already actually have it in the works. So every time you see us do like live streaming, not live streaming, but like restreaming on our channels, that's us actually testing out our Omniverse platform on YouTube to see what does it look like when we throw in commercials randomly? What does it look like when we build out channels? Can we separate things into different spots? Because one of my goals is to start off with just getting other non-believing content creators and putting all of our stuff on one large platform that people can subscribe to, but then diversifying that content, because atheists are not just non-believers. We're also authors, we're also entertainers, we're also singers, we're also artists of all types. And so creating that platform where you have this space, and it's really the same thing Christians did, right? It's creating that network where non-believers can go and realize, I'm not going to have Christianity or positive thinking or magical bullshit forced down my throat. I can actually just enjoy entertainment that's actually helping me learn things and at the same time. And so that's our Omniverse stretch. So then there's Empower with Style. You see this one on our YouTube channel. That's all of the merch that's on our YouTube channel is under the Empower with Style. This has been a part of our plans for a very long time. Before my wife and I got married, Empower with Style was actually one of her entrepreneurial ventures. And she made clothes and stuff like that, and was doing incredibly well, selling them to rappers and things like that. And so when we got married, we were really working hard to try to figure out how can we gel our ideas and bring them together. And Empower with Style was a real good one that we said we want to keep this on and now incorporate it into what we're doing now by incorporating these empowering messages, but doing it in these very stylistic ways. My whole drive of community is about opportunity, which is the whole thing, the whole real reason we created DLDD World Group as a nonprofit. is because we begin to realize that like people are robbing each other of opportunity by not working together. This actually comes from my Black nationalist days of realizing like you can't really set people free without paying a price. There is a cost to freedom. And sometimes people can't hear our messaging is because they're so caught up in the survival that I have to pay my bills. I have to pay for my kids to participate in life and feel like they're normal. And if I can't afford for them to feel like they're normal, then I feel like I'm under all of this pressure. And so then you come talking to them about trying to change the system. And they're like, when the fuck do I have time to do that? So I've spent the last 10 years of my life trying to create infrastructure that if we can get support systems behind it, that it would make it easier for people to transition from those type of things into the community they need, even if they're not exactly ready to take those leadership positions. But it's just like, hey, something's here for you, you know. The bridge is literally my goal to find as many former pastors that I can, as many event managers as I can, as many community leaders as I can, who have deconverted and who still believe community should be a priority, and to encourage them to start creating autonomous communities where they are, and to create support systems around those that are collaborative and cooperative, so that then that allows the secular community to start taking more of a lead in solving big problems. Because right now, religious organizations are taking the lead in solving problems, or I don't say solving, but at least helping in problems like homelessness, kids who don't have parents, by building orphanages and foster care systems. And the only way the secular community is actually going to be able to compete in that arena, and it's not just about competition, it's about the fact that these people, when they're creating these programs, they're not actually doing it to solve these problems. They're just doing it to recruit. So there's no real thorough of concern about how to care for these kids, how to create autonomy and an agency in these kids. And there's no real concern about what happens to these homeless people after they come through our shelter and we get to mark off this number and say, we helped 3,000 homeless people this weekend, you know. So
or how many people we saved, we brought to Jesus.
Yes,
in the fucking message. So gross. Mega churches do that all the time.
If we want to actually make change, we need to actually support this community infrastructure and create it in a way where we can be cooperative, you know. So that way, when there's a problem, you don't have to depend on one institution, one community, one organization, one group to solve it. You can pull on this network of autonomous agencies to start pulling together. And that moves us from solving problems reactively to actually being in the position to put together think tanks to say, okay, what problems can we leverage our influence and our networks together? And then Bridge City Global is just me being willing to be the guinea pig. It's me and my wife showing up every Sunday in front of people saying, this is what community could look like, until we can get people into the place where they're willing to experiment in their localities. And it's our commitment to be developmentally responsible in whatever ways we can to help people find that strength in themselves, and to remind people that perfection is a fucking mythology, that the only thing we can really do is progress. You learn as you go, which brings me to my last one. And that's Together We Can. And I say the last, there's quite a few I'm leaving out, but like I said, it's a lot. But Together We Can is our organization. And it's really the thing that pulls everything together. I grew up in the mindset that a jack of all trades is a master of none. And that was hard for me because I have so many varying interests. And so it's like, I don't want to be a master of one thing. And so I remember after I deconverted, finding a sense of solace in the idea that I'm just different. And, you know, I tell people that now, like, I don't understand what typical is. There is no prototypical human. We're all different. And we just have to find comfort in our difference. And I said, so I get it. There are some people who have one thing that they want to gravitate to and attach to. And I don't think that makes them any less human. I don't think that makes their work any less valuable. But the way life has worked on me, my one thing is the whole thing. I'm concerned about the whole thing. This is why politics are hard for me, because people pick their parts because of their one little things that's important to them.
Yes.
And I'm like, I have to think about the whole thing. And I won't settle for anything that's only thinking about this one little thing. I've chosen my seat and I'm unapologetic about it. I care about the whole planet. I think nationalism is as helpful as it has been. And again, I do sometimes identify as a Black nationalist. I think it's probably been one of the most damaging things that of systems that we've attached ourselves to, because it makes it so much easier to dehumanize others, or not to even care about what's going on over there if you don't think it impacts your national economy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Darante, if I would, the only thing that would get me back into a church is if you get up there on that podium and you speak just like you did today. That would get me back into a church building.
Oh, that is awesome.
You're just wasting God's gift, Darante. Think of how many people you could pull back to him now.
Oh God.
Oh my, but that's the exact reason I'm doing it. Ichabod, man, Brady Goodwin shared this on his Facebook earlier, and he said, you know, what he does, the reason he shares content on his channel is it's his atonement for how many people that he led into that belief system. And then Tim Mills said the same thing. He said, if I put 1,000 people into the kingdom, I'm not going to stop until I pull 100,000 out. And I have that similar type of tenacity and focus because I served in this so long and was so passionate. This is my penance to humanity. I owe humanity this. I led way too many people astray. I led way too many people into unhelpful ideologies that has only made life more difficult and more traumatic for them. So it is my reasonable obligation to be the most bright light that I can be. And this is why I'm a little bit competitive with it. I'm not going to let anybody outshine me. And that's just because I have a lot of shit to make up for.
Yeah. Well, you are definitely making it up, I think, Darante.
But that is not the perspective that so many people would take. Like, look at how easy it would be for you to spend your time angry right now.
Yep.
For the, the latchkiness, for the religion that you took on, like you could be such an angry person and you could probably be just as effective in the world with a force fueled by your anger. But instead, you've chosen a different path. And I think we will all be better for it, Darante.
Wow. Thank you. Oh,
this kind of reminds me of the movie 7 Pounds. Have you seen it, Darante?
Yes, that's one of my wife's favorite movies.
Will Smith.
It's incredible. Like it was a powerful message. Will Smith, in spite of his little Oscar fiasco, an incredible actor. And I was very disappointed by that. I wasn't just disappointed. I was upset. I felt more should have happened. I didn't like that. I don't like that at all, especially when you consider the things that are happening with Diddy. There should never be a situation where you can assault somebody and just walk away.
Do you think the fact that it was between two Black men made the difference?
I think it made it uncomfortable.
Like,
yes.
Two Black guys.
Yes.
Fuck off. Had it been a white person hitting a Black man or vice versa.
Yes.
It would have turned out very differently, right?
But that's such a key thing, right? Because that's what happens, right? When you see it, well, that's just a cultural thing. And that's what we do. And we do that out of good intentions, right? Because we're doing that trying to resist the urge of being colonizers. We're doing that of trying to resist the urge of making the mistakes that we've made in the past, of judging people by something that may be a cultural expression, which is why I think superstition has just so muddied the waters that now we don't even know what it is that we're standing against anymore. Yeah. And that's what makes it hard. So now it's like, oh, well, no, that's just something they do. And it's like, nope. Instead, let's just make up in our minds that it's never acceptable for anybody to hit anybody.
Yeah. But the whole, if somebody gets killed in the hood, oh, it's just two Black guys.
It's just two. Yes.
Each other. Nobody cares, right? That somebody was just murdered.
That's right. The Black on Black violence. Yes. Blind eye turn to that for sure.
And that's another reason why I say Black Lives Matter as an ally message is 100% powerful, because that's one of the reasons that people in my community do feel okay taking somebody else's life who looks like them, because they know the consequences are less. They know that they know when they have that gun in their hand that this person's life matters just as less as mine does. You know, that's that sickness that they're battling. And it's like that's the stuff why I said I couldn't be a Christian preacher anymore, because those are the issues we weren't dealing with. Like even preachers popularize violence in the Black church, and just all types of ways, you know. And I realized, like, this is horrible. Like, you know, we popularize ideas of somebody break your heart, it's okay to feel like fighting. And I'm like, no, it's not. That's petty. That's childish. Realize this isn't a person you need to be with and move the fuck on. You don't have to shoot anybody. You don't have to burn anybody's clothes. This is not a healthy response to realizing that somebody else is another fucking human being. Instead, just realize this isn't the type of human you want to be with. But yeah, it's that issue of not seeing value in yourself and not seeing value in others. We don't understand the socio-cultural damage that we've done through our patriotism, that we've done through our patriarchy, that we've done through our religion. And that's why I do try to bring nuance in my conversations. Yes, I go hard on religion, but at the end of the day, my goal is to show that we're the fucking problems and we have to be better. That has to be the commitment. We can get rid of religion, we can get rid of politics, but if we don't start realizing that we're the problem, we're the things that enable these systems to become so problematic, we'll never actually fix it.
I think to tag on to what you're saying, I think that I have come across so many people, especially from a cult environment, that they have totally taken on that message, but like to an extreme where it's like the recognition that where the problem is there, but it's because they believe that God said they're the problem. And so like it's this weird thing where we have to recognize we are the problem to actually help ourselves, but we also have to realize that there's nothing wrong
with us. That's a whole shirt. I'm the problem and there's nothing wrong with me. That is a whole fucking shirt. What I most enjoyed about this, and I kind of knew it from the time that we spent with Nancy and Joel a few weeks ago, is that this didn't feel like an interview. It just felt like a conversation. And that's often hard for me, right? Like I tell people, as charismatic as I come off, I have a laundry list of anxieties that even though I'm smiling and I'm engaging, when I'm talking to people, I'm having full-on panic attacks because I have this need to kind of know what you're going to say before you say it, in order so that I can kind of feel comfortable and know how to be, which is why I don't answer my phone, because I don't know what people are going to say. So they have to leave me a message first so I know what they're going to say so I can prepare and be in the right mental space. And so in most conversations, I'm very afraid or very concerned about offending other people because I realize I am very different. I am neurotypical or not neurotypical. I'm not sociotypical. And that's something I'm proud of. I am unapologetically me, but I realize it makes it uncomfortable for other people sometimes because people feel the need to have people who are ready-made conform to their ideas. But this was incredible because I didn't feel that need. We're just having a conversation. And I think that's because, you know, the same way y'all said, like, I was just starting my channel around the same time y'all were just starting yours. And so we've been able to be on this journey together a little bit and be able to get to know each other through communications, through emails, chats, and all that good stuff. So even though I knew like, oh snap, I had forgot, I had no real stress about this conversation. Because it's like you kind of find your tribe and then we're just vibing from there. And this has definitely been a whole vibe.
Wow, what a great convo. I'm like leaving tingling from this, Darante. Just I could listen to you talk all fucking day.
Oh man, like
you have, like, I heard somebody describe you once in your comments of like, you're just a fucking dragon, dude. You're breathing fire.
Oh snap.
I know. I mean, I feel like there's so many just like mic drop moments when I'm watching one of your videos that I have to stop myself because otherwise I would just sit and like make comments the whole time of like, and most of them are just like to repeat the line you said because I'm like, holy shit, did y'all hear what he just said? All right. Well,
Wow.
Maybe we'll have to do this again, and we can get more
I'd love to.
specific
Yes.
about like which part of the world's problems the three of us will work on solving together.
Yay!
Well, thank you everyone for being here while we got to introduce you to our friend Darante LaMar. Don't forget to check out his YouTube channel and all of his links down in the description. See if you can help Darante build a new world.
I want my porn to be a little more cosmic than this little boring shit that apes are doing down here.
God is the ultimate cock blocker.
Like 100%.